Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Crypto Gaming Institute podcast. My name is Ben, your host, and today we have the honor of speaking with Mr. Patrick, one of the co-founders of Playcheck Games and a former product manager at Altitude Games, and a ton of other things before that. So, Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Hey, welcome.
You are the man. I'm so glad that you decided to come on to the show here. So
I'm glad you're having me. Yeah.
We were chatting a little bit beforehand, and so I just kind of want to share with the audience what they can expect. So I want to dive into a little bit about your story and hear kind of how you got to where you are now. Then I'd love to kind of dive into the projects you're working on currently, and then the metaverse as a whole. So that's kind of what lay out an agenda here for the people, so they know what's coming.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's jump right in. I'd love to hear your story.
Well, where do I begin? I don't know. I ended up where I am right now. I think not by accident, but not like on a clear trajectory, I would say. My career in games started in China. I should say that I'm not from China. I'm German, and I studied Chinese here in Germany, and ended up in China after I graduated. I wrote my thesis about gold farming in World of Warcraft in China and online addiction, and I've always been a gamer lifelong, so I was interested in that topic. So I naturally gravitated towards looking for jobs in the industry, and I found such a job in China. I started out in a gaming company called R2 Games, where I did some customer service and transitioned to marketing thereafter. Did that for a few years, and yeah, that's sort of my foot into the industry. It was a browser and mobile games publisher, and we sort of like did the localization and the westernization of these games that we got from their Chinese version to the international version, so to speak. And after that, when I decided it's time to leave China and go back to Germany and all that, I ended up with a company called Outplay Games, that is now called Outplay Games. That was co-founded by the CEO of Altitude Games and Chase Freo, the CEO of Outplay Games, who was my former boss at the company in China. So in Altitude Games, I was hired to take care of Battle Racers, which is a game that we are still doing now, but we've spun out of Altitude Games with our own entity. We're a fully blockchain gaming company now, me and my co-founders. And yeah, that's sort of what we're doing now. We're developing games like Battle Racers and Mushroom Mania, with NFTs and blockchain on the forefront of all things. And that's sort of where I am now. Yeah, it's I think that's the gist. I don't know.
That's super cool. So wait, let's jump back to, I want to understand what you were talking about more of writing your thesis on WoW gold farming. Can you explain that? Like, what exactly were you studying? What sort of conclusions did you come to there? Because I actually think the WoW farming mechanism and the auction house and their economy there's a lot of lessons to be learned today with crypto gaming. So I'm really interested in kind of digging into that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think you're totally right. It was sort of like it's a virtual economy, so to speak, right? It has that in common with cryptocurrency before cryptocurrency was a thing. I think when I wrote this thesis, Bitcoin wasn't even out. I think I wrote in 2007. Wow. Yeah, and true enough, I think my former CEO in that gaming company in China, he was doing like the stuff I wrote about at that time. I didn't know, but I learned after the fact that he was into gold farming in China, and true enough, he's now doing cryptocurrency stuff as well. So I think yeah, it has an appeal, and it's definitely needed still. Even gold in World of Warcraft, there's still a market for it, and it's still being farmed in a different way than Bitcoin is farmed. But it's still sort of like a not really a proof of work. But yeah, people essentially trade in money for like labor, right?
Yeah. And what were some of your conclusions on that paper?
Well, it's been such a long time. It was like partly about that and partly about online addiction in China. And the main conclusion is at that time it was a relatively new phenomenon, I would say, and it's definitely a model, like an income model for people to that is here to stay. Much like play to earn is emerging now. Back then, people were already gaming to make a living, but cryptocurrency was obviously not part of the equation then. It is now, and true enough, here we are. I think 15 years later, and yeah, people are playing games and earning money.
So it seems like your thesis was right, that it would be around for, that it's not going away. That's really interesting. What
Yeah,
now?
I couldn't have known all this, obviously. Otherwise, I would be tremendously wealthy. But yeah.
You're a fortune teller, Patrick. You see the future.
Yeah,
But
I wish.
So what about it at that time? Like, how did you know that it was going to be around? Did you just see like, okay, there are a lot of people playing WoW. The gold farming is a way for gamers to actually monetize their time playing games. And did you just see that kind of being like a way for people to make money playing games that they would then continue doing forever? Or like, what about it really stuck out to you as this is going to be here forever?
Yeah, I think at that time it was really just it was the numbers that stuck out to me. The amount of people that were playing WoW, and the emergence of people selling their accounts or gold, and it just the sheer number of people playing it in China, especially, and the size of the market, like the willingness of people to essentially get ahead of the curve and buy stuff without putting in time for the grind. That stuck out to me because it was so common, and the willingness that people are spending real currency to like get in-game items was novel at the time to me. And I thought, like, so many are doing it, and it is a $1 billion industry. It was back then in China even. It was just eye-opening, and I think virtual or not, it's a real thing, and it's going to be. And I think I thought at the time that it will definitely be there to stay. And in the beginning, it's not legal, right? And Blizzard started opening up to the idea of being part of that equation with the auction house in Diablo 3 back then, which failed. But having item ownership, or like having like virtual currency ownership, without the need of like a shady aftermarket, is like now fulfilling a real need that players have. Like, so I thought that's interesting, and I couldn't foresee the way things are now, definitely. But I thought, like, hey, this is pretty cool. Like, my mom used to say, you're wasting your time playing online video games.
Not so much
anymore.
anymore.
Not so much anymore. Yeah.
I love that. Cool. So at what point did you then move from more academia into your working? It seems like you kind of started off, and I'm just kind of reading a little bit more of your bio. You started off in customer service, then you went into marketing, and then you were leading a marketing team. And then, now you were a director, and now you've risen in the ranks to become a co-founder. So like maybe you could take us through in a little bit more depth, the chronology of your rise as somebody who started off, it seems like in an entry level position, and now you're a co-founder of your own studio.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you start, right? You start in an entry-level position. I mean, at least if you haven't studied in the same field that you want to find employment in. I was super fortunate to get a job in the industry, and I quickly learned that I have talents in marketing. So I tried to like get a better job within the company, and then as time progresses, you hopefully climb up the career ladder, so to speak, even if hierarchies are flat in modern gaming companies. That's what happened, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And yeah, it was after that experience at that company, in the first company, I kind of wanted to do something more wholesome, because let's face it, it was Chinese browser and mobile games. When you hear that, you think like, yeah, it's gonna be like a casual, like a cash cow kind of company, right? So as a gamer all my life, that's definitely not what I hoped what I would be doing in the industry forever. I'm super grateful I did it, because it led me to where I am today, and it was super fun. You learn a lot of things that you wouldn't learn otherwise in like a AAA studio, probably in that environment. And it led me to meet the people that I'm now calling my co-founders. I was fortunate enough to become the product manager for Battle Racers at the time when I started in Altitude. And that was so much more fulfilling than working for like the mobile games publisher, because I perceived it working for the good guys, if you know what I mean. Like doing something that like focuses on like gameplay and sustainability. And having been in a Chinese publishing industry, I noticed how broken the system, or like rigged the system towards bigger publisher is, and how hard it is for indies to strive with like the millions of necessary marketing budget to stick out in like the Play Store or iTunes, which is something that you struggle with if you are if you don't have a publishing deal, right? So yeah, I thought it would be super cool to not be reliant on that, and to not like cater to like the balancing needs of that, like creating a loop where you make your whales happy and the free players that you need in order to get the number of installs. I thought it would be cool to have like a system where it's just more fair for everyone, where players could earn equally, like where players can strive and the developers survive without like spending on installs or like Facebook ads so much, right? Or like depending on 30% revenue share for just for being on iTunes, so stuff like that. Of course, I recognize the need to be in that ecosystem, but I thought like, yeah, it would be cool for a change if I could like do something I really like and have a good conscience about it, and not like work for someone else.
I love that. So it seems like you kind of saw the dark side of gaming, if you will.
I wouldn't necessarily call it the dark side. I think it's the I would weirdly say it's the bright side, because it's the side you see all the time. Like if we speak of the moon, because it's like 90% of the industry is like the free-to-play mobile gaming industry, right? and what you don't see is the struggling indies. So weirdly enough, that's the dark side, but the dark side is the good side. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it's maybe that was the wrong way to say it. Like the less aligned side. Like I see
for sure.
what we're doing now with crypto gaming and like the collective we, and you know, you're one of the leaders of this. Um, everybody's aligned in the incentives. I mean, the more the gamers play, the more they earn, the better the game does, the better it is for the investors. Like it just, everybody wins to my knowledge. And if it's not that way, I'd love to be educated on that, because you know, I want to know. You know, I've dedicated my career to crypto gaming, but it just seems like everything is so perfectly aligned. There doesn't have to be a loser in the equation. You know, it doesn't have to be like a farm, funny enough to use that term, but it doesn't have to be a farm of just like sucking the attention of people and they get nothing in return. Like it's fun, and people earn, and the games win, and the investors win. Like it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it's the only way it can strive and survive. I think it has to offer just that. It has to be beneficial for every party involved. Otherwise, it will have no base of existence. If somebody doesn't find it fair, then it will probably not take over in the long term.
Exactly. So when you then moved from, seems like you went from customer service to marketing to product to co-founder. What drew you to those specific roles? Like, and the reason I'm asking is a lot of people they realize crypto gaming is a thing. They want to get in it. Maybe they don't have any skills, or they don't have any applicable skills, but they want to be a part of it. Like, how did you go about figuring out, okay, well, I want to, it seems like you probably just kind of started off in customer service, but then you went into marketing, then you went into product, then you went to co-founder. Like, what about marketing did you like? Why was that a good fit for you? What about product management did you really like? And then, you know, so on and so forth.
Well, I should say that while I was in marketing at R2 Games, it was predominantly product marketing already. So I was always drawn to the products that we were churning out there. And what I liked there in the beginning was that the job was different every day. And that's what I still like about being a co-founder. So I think like the everyday task, like in customer service, to answer tickets or stuff like that, is yeah, it's an entry-level task, and it's worth doing. And then it has, if it's neglected, then the entire company suffers. But I was more drawn to something creative, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And the creativity that comes with like product marketing, doing different things every day, essentially. I mean, of course, those things repeat eventually, but that's what drew me to it. And to tie it up with like blockchain. I mean, at that time, it started to come up, and I thought it was super fun because it promised to fulfill a lot of the things that I already liked about like gaming, about these aspects. And I think it already back then I remember thinking, hey, this would be a killer use case. And I immediately jumped ship when I had the chance to be part of a blockchain gaming company.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about and I want to get a little bit technical, because we do have some folks in the audience who are actually, a lot of folks in the audience who are creators themselves. So from the marketing perspective, like what's working, what's not, what has continued to work throughout as far as marketing goes? From
the perspective that we are now in with then Altitude and now Playcheck Games, marketing indie games, smaller games to a smaller crowd, not like millions on the Play Store. I think it's super important for every indie to collaborate in such a market where you usually struggle for attention and struggle to be noticed. It's super important to offer something for like cross promotion, like for have like a at best like a win-win situation where you can leverage on another audience, if you know what I mean. Like for example, working with more known projects in the blockchain space that are already a little bit more established, so they learn about you, but you can also give something in return. And I think we're still all baking the cake, so we can do that together and then slice it afterwards when there's like mainstream adoption, essentially.
So does that look more like, hey, we have some tokens set aside for partnerships, so we want to be more of a long-term strategic partner with you, and you know, in exchange for helping us promote and exposing us to your audience, we'll share a certain percentage of the partnership wallet with you, or something like that? I mean,
no,
how do you...
we're not doing that kind of. I mean, sounds super smart to do that, but it's also kind of like boring. We want to like do that collaboration with the community, not the company, if we can. Of course, we have to come like talk to the companies to make it happen, but we want to offer incentives to the communities rather. We would like to like have NFTs that interoperate with each other. For example, we did something with Neon District where a lightsaber of theirs in a wallet that also has a car from our game would enable a neon underglow in our game, something like that, where you have like things from different games like working in tandem, like in a gamey way, like some like we are a gaming company. We want to like emphasize that, like, yeah, we do NFT and we're a blockchain technology under the hood, but it should be under the hood, and usually the hood is closed. So we were like, we could do all this like financial aspect of it, but we would also like players to figure that out on their own and just have fun while doing that, and we think that's important. So we cool. want to offer like these kind of incentives, like where you play our game, you get a benefit in that game, and our NFTs are like a vehicle for that. No pun intended.
I actually think that's like 1,000,000,000% the way to do it, because the gamers are gonna want to play more than one game. Like as gamers, we always want to play. We're not just going to be married to one game most of the time. Even if we have a main, like we always have, you know, like our side hoe of games, to be super crude about it. but
yeah,
but like
100%. Yeah.
And so like to have that interoperability is huge.
It is. It should be, and rightfully so. The established players outside of blockchain industry noticed that already. They would be foolish not to. I remember back then, and when I think I was playing PUBG or something, and you have like skins there, and you could sell them for like Steam points, or like and buy other games with that. It's essentially the same thing without blockchain and without the middleman, right? And I think it makes sense. Like you play a game, you have fun with it, and eventually you'll move on. Like games have a life cycle. Ideally, the life cycle is longer than in free-to-play mobile gaming, but it's still there. Like we'd hope to engage players long enough for us to make a living and extend that life cycle. Like after all, we also want to make money, but we also want to engage them in future games that we develop, so they already bring in something to the new game from an old game of ours, or something of value that they convert from another game, stuff like that. And I think it totally makes sense, and I think that's also to circle back here, an interesting marketing proposition, because user acquisition it's harder to lose a user now if he is invested into your game, and he can bring something from that game into a new game. It's easier to acquire and harder to lose, and that's great for any gaming company. And the money you spend on all that, on that user, you don't have to spend on ads. Like, who likes to spend money on ads? Nobody.
Exactly. I love that. I love that so much, because it also, what it does is it empowers the gamer, who at the end of the day, we're building these for gamers. Like, gamers are the end user of these experiences, these games. And gamers are, in my opinion, the future of the metaverse and the original citizens who are going to be here first. So it empowers the gamer to be game agnostic, because they can now hop from game to game, and they can trade in and out of like, they can trade their progress in and out of games. Like, that to me is one of the most beautiful things ever, because I know I've put in an ungodly amount of time in so many video games. If I could bring all of those grinded hours with me, I mean, that would be a freaking miracle. And I really think that's where we're headed. So it's interesting to hear that echoed by you now. It's interesting. Are you actually building in right now a way? Well, I'll ask that in a second. Let's jump now to your actual project. Let's talk about Playcheck. I'd love to kind of hear like the founding thesis, and then what's actually going on there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, with Playcheck, basically we spun out of Altitude Games as a blockchain gaming arm, and because we realized it would be just much easier to make the games we want to make as our own entity, for funding purposes, and just for PR and branding purposes as well. We're still part of Altitude Games in terms of, like, they invested in us also, and we leveraged their ecosystem a little bit in the beginning. So that's cool, and we're super thankful for that. But I sort of lost my coherent thought here, what your question was, but we want to make games with, like, fun and an earnable aspect in the forefront, and focus on gameplay with blockchain under the hood. And so we took Battle Racers, the game we developed already beforehand, and are continuously making it better to do that. With that, we're also about to take that mobile. Like, we're releasing a version of Battle Racers, which is essentially like Battle Racers 2 or Recharged. The name is not yet final, but we think to reach more people, you gotta go mobile. So we're doing like a version of that for mobile devices, and we're also, you mentioned Metaverse there earlier. We're also still in Decentraland. You can play it on browser. The games that will continue to develop and develop in the future will have an aspect of, like, interoperability, so you can cash out of Battle Racers with that currency and convert it to another currency to use that in a different game, for example. Things like that, like, and wherever we're in, whether it's the sandbox, like Decentraland, or on mobile, or like another entity, you just take whatever you own, you take it with you, unless you don't want to do that anymore, and move on to the next game. But you still can, because it's your items, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, I completely I maybe didn't answer your question.
All good. No, all good, all good. So I want to dig into this more, though. when you're building out your games, and it seems like Battle Racers and Mushroom Mania are kind of your flagship titles right now, but like what's the underlying thesis here for building the game? You know, it seems like you're very gameplay focused. Like, do you have certain specific loops that you programmed in, or is it something that, you know, the team just felt very passionately about racing, for example? Or, you know, was it like, did you take inspiration from something else that you've played or seen work? Like, what's the thesis for
Oh,
making
gotcha.
this a fantastic game?
For battle racers, it's hard to not see the influences that we had. It's in the Philippines. My three other co-founders are from the Philippines. When they were young, these sort of like matchbox race cars, Tamiya cars, they are called there, were a big influence. And we thought of like, hey, let's do something like that. Originally, gameplay wise, it had to be sort of like an automatic racer where you don't steer yourself because of the design constraints in Decentraland. But we immediately loved it, and it was super fun to play. So yeah, those were influences. Of course, Mario Kart is an influence as well, yeah, Magic Cars, like the earnable and tradable aspects of that. The game is essentially you pick the best NFT parts that have the best stats to make the best car to compete with other players for the best race time, and by that you earn in-game currency, which you then can use to upgrade your car parts, or you can use the car parts that you don't want and salvage them to that currency to create other power-ups for the car parts you want. So that's basically the core loop. You race competitively with your NFTs to make in-game currency, whether it's like automatically in the game or in tournaments that are sponsored by I know we had in the past with Maker or Binance sponsor prizes, for example, or Matic, Polygon. Hard to kick the habit. But yeah, like basically compete with real players in a fun and engaging way to earn some bucks and make the time worth your while. And yeah.
So
earn.
the earning mechanism is
That's
primarily
core. Like we're making play to earn games. I mean, we're called Playcheck. It's a wordplay on paycheck. So
I love that. I love that. Well, I want to dig into this more. So it seems like the main earning mechanism here is you have an NFT that is your vehicle, and that's your what you're racing with. And please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's each car is 4 NFTs. It's your tires, your spoiler, your chassis, you know, and these have different stats based on the car brand and the model and the rarity. And you can mix and match those for like, say on track 1, it favors a car that is good in curves, right? So you need more handling and stuff like that. So you have different cars, and you can outfit those to like fit your needs, and trade parts that you want or don't want, trade them away, stuff like that. That's yeah.
And then as you win, you're earning, and you use what you earn to upgrade your NFTs.
Yep.
And so the idea is, as you are getting better and you're earning, your NFTs are becoming more valuable because you're upgrading them. And the way that you can, like, quote unquote, cash out is you can sell your NFTs or sell the parts, and
or sell the currency you earn. Yeah.
And then that all ties it. That's awesome. That's beautiful, because you have multiple, it seems like you have multiple on and off ramps to get into and out of the ecosystem.
Yep, I think syncs are very important in any game, and to have like an easy to understand loop is also very important. And I think it's we designed something pretty straightforward, which can be like, it has to be balanced still, because we're a gaming company, so not everything is on chain and everything is like within the NFT. We still, I think, just for like balancing purposes and for time's sake and interaction, we need to have like a database where you can balance your stats or something like that as a compromise, because we want to make games. We don't want to like sell out pieces that are going to be the same forever and don't have any utility. So yeah, that's basically our idea behind Battle Racers, and hopefully other games that we will develop later on. Not every game will be a racing game, I don't think. We like racing games, but we like all kinds of games. Yeah, it was just an interesting use case for us, and we thought like, hey, we like, who doesn't like Mario Kart? We like Mario Kart, and
everyone loves Mario Kart,
and that's why we, with the mobile game that we're doing now, that it's not yet released, it will be active gameplay. It will, like, you can steer your car on the track. It will be much more like Mario Kart than the version on Decentraland, for example. Yeah.
So when you're thinking about this, I'm kind of curious about two different pieces here. One is the actual currency. Can you talk us through kind of the, can you talk us through the tokenomics here, inflationary versus deflationary, how you mint, how you burn, so on and so forth?
Yeah, so if you play the game just as normal and you win the currency, which is called scrap, for scrap metal parts, right? There's a maximum you can earn that way each week to sort of like limit exploitative behavior.
And now, is that limit set by the amount of staking that you're doing? Is there a staking component, or that's just a hard cap?
That's just a hard cap for every like wallet that can raise like in a gameplay environment. If you have the parts needed to raise, you can win scrap, and that there's a maximum on that. Apart from that, like there are many other ways to earn scrap. Like you can buy parts, you can smelt them into scrap. There's tournaments you can compete in. There's a lot of things that are not implemented yet as well. Like we want to like, for example, like have people like put in some stake, like for racing, right? Like some Andy to make it spicy. So you can totally do that, like once the feature becomes available, of course. But yeah, we've thought about many different ways to make it more interesting, like racing teams, or like lending other people your car to race. Like, so some people might not be interested in playing and racing all the whole time, but they might still want to make a cool car and earn by upgrading it and lending it to their fellow racers in the same team. Some, like, I heard like racing teams are a thing in the Formula One, so why not do the same?
That is a great idea, and that actually ties into. Wait, I'm sorry. I wanted to step back for a second. So with the currency though, does it get burned? Is it inflationary, deflationary? Because if we're working to accumulate currency, it's important to know how that currency actually functions.
So if you upgrade your car, part, then you need to use scrap for that, and that gets I don't know if it's technically gets burned or sent to the contract address. I need to follow up with you on that. But it's meant to be deflationary. So other, like, essentially the currency will be gone if you use it to upgrade, right? Or if you use it like yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, like you need sinks, otherwise like you nothing will have worth.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
hugely powerful, because we're seeing this right now actually play out, I think, pretty negatively with SLP in the Axie universe. I mean, it's just so inflationary at this moment. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time of this recording, I believe it's still inflationary. So the value of it's dropping, and that's going to cause a lot of problems. And like when you see games that operate on with a currency that it's just kind of just minted and thrown out there, and it's super inflationary, like the only thing that it can do to at its logical conclusion is go as close to zero as humanly possible. I mean, there is not enough buying pressure in the world to combat infinite inflation. So like
at the moment that might be true, but I'm like not going on a limb here by saying that Sky Mavis and Axie, they have incredibly talented and smart people to figure this out. And as every gaming company, that's what you have in your power to do when you realize something's off. You balance it, hopefully, right, at some point. Now, of course, with blockchain gaming and openly traded currencies, as a consumer, you have also something to say about that, and you influence the price outside of the game as you do it inside of the game. So it's a little bit more difficult, and you need more time to react. And I'm sure it's not easy. I know it's not easy. In the beginning, when we released our earliest version of Battle Racers, we didn't have that soft currency. So we only had parts, and we don't have a way to make them better. So that's why we said, like, we need a way to make them better. We need to like ensure to not only churn out NFTs that nobody wants, that are duplicates, that don't have great stats, something to do with unwanted parts. We need something to increase the value of these NFTs and the value of the soft currency that we envisioned. So yeah, I think like a gaming company can do something about it in the context of like being a gaming company, which is very forgiving, that like many non-gaming companies in the blockchain sphere don't necessarily have or cannot get away with, because they are not a gaming company, if that makes sense. It's a bit abstract, but I think balancing or like releasing a new patch or a new edition is a perfectly legitimate way to address these kind of issues. So you have to be agnostic when you design these systems. So yeah, like inflation is a huge thing that you have to combat. Like it's a thing that nobody wants. Like again, to circle back from the beginning, like the investor, the developer, the user, nobody wants that. So that needs to be combated, and yeah, that's a big priority.
I love it. And I really love the mechanism of, well, let me back up. I love the insight that you shared around that. I do not love inflation. But I really like how you have solved that problem. That's really interesting. So let's now kind of talk about what you see as the future here of the metaverse. And we've talked about your history, we've talked about the project. How do you see what you're building being long-term a part of the metaverse, and then where do you see the actual entire metaverse going in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Oh, that's super hard to answer. I don't, to be quite frank, don't even completely know or have a super coherent definition for the metaverse, quote unquote. It's abstract, and I think depending on who you ask, most people will never have heard of it. Probably, I think maybe now that Facebook called itself Meta, I don't know, and their own definition of it. But I think to foresee anything in the Web3 space 10 years in advance is a fool's errand. I hope it's going to be it's going to be somewhat like an, I don't know, Ready Player One is often quoted. Right now it's a bit like Ready Player None, because it's so empty. But
right,
yeah, like when it transcends like the current limitations of its implementation, like when you have it with you and don't think about the technology under the hood, when it's becoming what mobile is now, essentially, like, because we were at that state with like mobile games when we transitioned to them, and like Apple's and Google's dominance with that. It's not so long ago. So yeah, I think, like, first of all, I think it has to be wherever we are, and for that, the obvious thing is it's got to be on our phones wherever, and it's got to be frictionless, and it has to have a nice UI for a change. Yeah, and I think those are just natural progressions, like that'll come eventually. Like the specifics, I don't know. Like I don't know what it looks like in 10 to 20 years. Who knows? I'm like, all I know is we still want to be there when that happens, for whatever happens. Like in 10 years to be like a gaming company will be different than it is now. Like the underlying technology is here to stay. I think the end user doesn't necessarily have to understand it. Like, I don't know how to do Unity, but I like to play games, right?
Yeah. I love that. I love that. You know, I think it is imperative to, like you said, be where the users are and meet the gamers where they are. And I actually think that y'all have positioned yourselves as Playcheck to be in a really, really cool position going mobile. And obviously, you know, you have a lot of insight into that from your experience and work history over your career. But I think a lot of these games right now are browser based. And so for y'all to be able to come in and provide a mobile experience, I mean, I think it's brilliant, and I think it positions you to really clean up a lot of market share, and really build a powerful user base here. I think that's so phenomenally cool.
Thanks. I mean, yeah, that's the idea. Hopefully it will work out. I mean, because as I said earlier, currently we're fighting a little bit of a battle, because these ecosystems are usually not really friendly towards crypto, right? Or like they're beginning to be, but the landscape was different 2 years ago, and it will be different in 2 years or in 10 years, and that will also be a part of how the difference in what the metaverse is now and versus in 10 years. So that's going to be part of that equation as well. But right now, we believe going mobile has some roadblocks still, because of the current gatekeepers. That's clear to us. But we need to hurdle these roads, like these roadblocks. We need to find a way to be part of that ecosystem. We need to like it's so much easier to attract users to just by going there, like not like having them come to us. But I just wanted to say it's not without its limitations and problems to try to take a blockchain game company mobile.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's a huge feat, but that's why I'm so excited, is because there are really smart people like you and your team that are tackling it. I really think that the holy grail of, or the major inflection point that for what we're talking about here for mobile crypto gaming is going to be when Apple and Google decide that they're ready to actually embrace this. And I think it's inevitable. It's more of a when than an if, in my opinion. But when they have their products like the Apple Wallet, for example, and their Apple Wallet is actually also a blockchain enabled wallet. And then, like for example, somebody would download the Battle Racers app, and then just as part of the initial sign up flow, it'll say connect your wallet, and one of the options will be connect to Apple Wallet, and it'll
connect Apple, Google, or PayPal or whatever, right? If it's just like another option, that's going to be what it's going to look like. Yeah,
totally. And I actually think whichever one of those behemoths decides to pull their head out of their ass and get on this, and to do that, I mean, they're going to kill it. They're going to crush it. Like until their competitors catch up, they'll have a monopoly on the mobile crypto gaming market. But I think that is kind of that is when the inflection point for when mobile crypto gaming can really go mainstream, is when the big players, the ecosystem is actually participating from a wallet perspective. I think that's kind of the biggest obstacle.
Who do you think will flip the switch earlier, Apple or Google?
I want it to be Apple, mostly because I have an iPhone. But I think that Google, I think Google will actually, I think either Google or Microsoft will do it first. Because
interesting.
Yeah, because Microsoft actually, I think, could be the one to do it first, just because they're so ingrained with gaming with their Xbox platform. But then again, I mean, Apple released their arcade feature recently, so they obviously are paying attention to gaming. And then Google just launched Stadia recently, so they're paying attention to gaming. And obviously YouTube with streaming. I mean, it's just so obvious. So I'm not sure, but I think it's going to be one of those big players. And if I had to guess right now, I'd say probably Microsoft is going to do it first.
Huh, interesting. I think it will be Apple, actually. But I have nothing to base this on other than the fact that when they decide it's time for another upgrade, there's not many other different hardware versions out there. Like when they decide to streamline something, they can just turn out another iTunes or like another system update, and it's there. Their limitations are much less than like Google's for like designing for so many different manufacturers, like security wise. So that could be an issue on Google's side, maybe. I think once either does it, the other one will shortly follow after. But I think Apple might have an easier time, even though their philosophy is not going to push them ahead of Google. I don't think, but it's also easier to release that feature like Apple Pay for like a country like the US first, and then see how that goes. I think it's easier to wall off other locales in iOS than to do that in Google. I don't know.
I changed my answer.
I don't know enough about
I think you're right.
to give. But you could also totally be right in terms of like having a gaming ecosystem be the catalyst for it, and Microsoft has that in their corner, right? So it might be easier in that regard. But they are not like the one of the two major players in mobile, I don't think.
Exactly.
Maybe Facebook. I don't know. They tried with Libra, and they like Facebook gaming is obviously pretty big. It's hard to see. One of them will come out with it eventually. I don't know. I honestly I don't know enough about it to make a really educated guess. But for me, it seems that it could be either Apple or Google first. Yeah. I think like slightly leaning Apple. I don't I don't want them to be first, because I don't like. I'm the opposite of you. I have a Google phone, so.
Well, whenever that happens, I think it's going to be huge for the industry. So
yeah, no doubt.
Well, hey, I want to be respectful of your time, so just have one more question for you here. Really appreciate you coming on and chatting this far. But what question should I be asking you that I just wouldn't think to ask?
Is this the plug or the promo question?
It might be.
Yeah, like what's next for Playcheck probably, right? I mean, as I said, we're about to release our mobile game. It's not quite ready. We will release a beta version of it soon, which you can sign up for now if you head to one of the links that are in the show notes. I think, yeah, should be the case.
Yep. It will be.
So yeah, like follow us on our social channels and stay tuned for whenever we go mobile and please play our game. We like you to check it out if you're keen. Have a look in the links below. Wherever you're listening to this, there must be show notes, so you have no excuse.
Totally. And I actually thought of one other question that I'm just dying to ask. How do you view esports as a part of your growth strategy, as a part of your roadmap? Like, how does that fit in?
It's interesting. I think those can go hand in hand with other ways of promoting the game. I would see it then as more than just a promotion. If you like pay streamers or like sponsor esport teams to play your game, that's obviously going to attract a larger crowd. If they stream or have like their own following, it's going to be beneficial, right? But it's also very tough to get the balancing so right that it evolves into an esport naturally. And I think balancing is like the most important factor when it comes to esports. So everything needs to be right in order for attracting like a crowd naturally. So like I think it's the genre lends itself to esport rather well, like just by competing and racing.
Oh yeah.
So I think it totally makes sense. And yeah, like this should be our benchmark. Like we want to make such a good game to eventually for it to be like so popular that people compete for it. Like I mean the goal for play to earn is like to compete for money, and that is like that's like esport, right?
Totally. I see battle racers positioned in a way to, like, you know, a little bit later down the road as it gets developed more, like become the NASCAR of esports. I mean, that's essentially what it can become, is like, you know, one of the biggest, best racing games in the metaverse that has like this cult following, elite racers. I mean, people are really devoting time to becoming better drivers, better racers. They're studying the parts. They're looking at the different ratios of what's the optimal part for this, this
track, maybe
track.
Yeah,
Exactly. And like, they're really studying it, and they have teams of people, and they have different esports organizations fielding teams, and everybody's competing, and people are streaming, and there are tournaments, and there's like a whole league. Like, that to me is one of the most exciting parts of a competitive PvP style game, is that it can go to that. I was kind of more trying to understand like how you viewed that, and if you kind of saw it in the same way that I do.
Yeah, totally. Like I absolutely agree with you, and it would be like there are so many possibilities to even co-brand with NASCAR, right? To put branding on the hood, or have a sponsorship or something like that. And for the gaming and the esport aspect and the whole spreadsheet figuring out stuff, like we already have tournaments for the game on Decentraland and the browser version, where people can register and compete for the best time and figure all this out with like lots of real prizes for them to compete with. Like, yeah, that's like we want to do this. This is one way to engage with the game and keep it fresh, and it helps also to like promote the game and attract new people, right? It's a big incentive, and
Totally.
esport is important to like keep it fresh. Yeah, I definitely agree.
I could almost see a world where there's like almost like like a sponsor marketplace where sponsors would come in and like almost try to bid on the different racers that could be sponsored by them. So like, you have 3 brands who they all want to go and put their logos on, Jimmy John's, Jimmy's car. And, because Jimmy's, the 3rd best racer in all of EU. And so, a bunch of different brands are competing to all win that spot. I mean, that could almost be its own marketplace.
Yeah, it's like the old, the new equivalent of the old $1 million page, a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember it, but yeah, is that it's very metaversey, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And there could almost be a gamification there for how they bid. Okay, I'm going way too far down the rabbit hole. But yeah, this is
we thought about aspects of this as well. Like we have this how in big sports arenas there's like these big mega cubes which is like advertisement and like instant replays and stuff, like in football stadiums and stuff.
Yeah.
And in our arena in Decentraland, you can just put such a meta cube.
So
mega cube, but meta cube. Interesting.
Meta
write this down.
That's a good one.
And just like have it like show ads or stuff like that.
So cool. So cool.
I mean, I don't want to emphasize on the idea to plaster the metaverse with ads. I know what I'm proposing here, but I think ads are always going to be part of the equation. That's the way money is made on the internet. So yeah.
Totally. I mean, it's just because like the idea of advertising and sponsorship is critical to any economy. So it is what it is.
Definitely.
I think it's up to the platform to figure out how to make it palatable and how to make it not suck for the users. So that's a challenge.
Make it palatable. Yeah,
totally. Well, Patrick, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
No, thank you. Right back at you. It was a pleasure.
Love what you're doing. Really excited to kind of keep tabs on it and maybe do a follow-up episode to kind of talk about what happened with the mobile rollout, the development of the esports, and what the big gaming ecosystems are doing to to really understand more about the mobile crypto gaming industry. I think you're very, very interestingly positioned there to become an expert in that space. You already are to become further of an expert in that space.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we'd love to come back. Maybe I'll bring one of my other co-founders next time as well. And would love to catch up one day.
Awesome.
And in the meantime, if you're listening to this, play our game.
Play the heck out of it. Race on. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, everybody watching and listening.
Thank you very much.
See you all on the next episode.